Hello, welcome back to a May 2026 update of my journey to live off an income portfolio full time. So, for those of you who joined for the first time, this is a series where I track my progress of attempting to live off an income portfolio. So, I track all the withdrawal, all the drawdown, all the cash coming in, all the distribution received, all the purchase, and then I compares it with a popular ETF ticker such as the VFV, which is S&P 500, XQQ, which is a Nasdaq Composite Index, HYLD and XEQT, and I track to see if I were to go down the early retirement with the different popular ETF ticker, how it would have performed. And I record everything and then I present it in the more digestible data. So hope you follow along with the journey. Just want to mention that this is just my personal experience. It's not any financial advice. And let's get right into it. So I can't believe that it's been almost 10 years already since I last put out a video. For those of you not familiar, I think about 9 years ago, I posted a video saying that I wanted to retire before the age of 40, which at the time is about 4,305 days before I reach the age of 40. Um, Fast forward 8 to 9 years later, I actually finished the progress and attempted to pull the trigger a lot earlier than I had planned. It's starting off as me just transitioning from job to job, and I decided to take a long sabbatical with my wife. One thing led to another. We decided to pull a trigger and just attempt to live off this portfolio full time. And market has been quite generous to us, just like this month. Let's go back over here. So S&P actually ripped pretty hard in the past month, went up 5%, and Nasdaq go up even higher. And of course, our portfolio also get some benefit of that as well. Just for reference, S&P has been doing quite well this year, up already 8%, despite we having some dip. But in the past, second half of the year, definitely been kind of ripping pretty hard here. For reference, S&P on average are up about 10% per year minus the inflation, and 8% is already shaping out to be quite a good year. I know we have a lot of uncertainty in the market still, such as new Fed chair, the war in Iran, oil prices record high, bunch of wars, and all the AI bubble fear. But uh, there's not much we can control in that part aside from our temperament, and then make sure that you invested in a solid stocks and ETF that can kind of weather through the storm. And with no further ado, let's get right into the data. So last week I posted on Reddit first regarding my update to my journey. I usually do a video update a little bit more detail a week later. So this was our portfolio back in upon the time of updating. Our portfolio almost reached all-time high. I think the all-time high was about like 1.27. But on the record, for the recorded data, this is actually the all-time high. We started off, I think, in 2024 about close to 900K, and then since then, despite all the withdrawal, the portfolio has been going up consistently. I mean, of course, with some, it's not a straight line up. It never is, right? Always like ups and down, but generally the trending is up. We made a lot of, actually, let's go to so this was the last week. So right now, this is what it looks like. Oops, right here. So this is the current portfolio. We made a big change into margin account, but let's get to that in a bit. So the core holding, these are basically our register account. It's everything being kind of chugging along nicely. Everything's being reinvested into the core holding. So basically, all the redistribution here can being reinvested in just for long-term growth. And then for margin account, this is kind of act as a little bit more of how do I say it, like opportunity fund. So when I see a good opportunity, I tend to kind of move money around here, a little bit more active trading. I wouldn't really call it active. A lot of time I don't really touch it much until I see a proper good opportunity. Then I kind of move money around. Um, if you follow the journey, we were very heavily invested in the fixed income throughout 2023, 2024, and 2025. I now, since last month, I shifted all fixed income out and I kind of went all in on equity. I added more to Amazon from last time. I added Reddit. I added some leaps for Oracle and Amazon as well. So far, this has performed really well. Um, because of nature of portfolio, we cover call doesn't fully capture the upsides of the market, but I think with this move, we actually allowed to capture a lot more upside during this past month run. The margin balance is actually also at all-time high, went up quite a large amount from last month. I think last month we were at about 300K, and this month actually went up quite a large margin. Living expense chugging along nicely. This is actually everything that we get from this account actually withdraw out and then use as a living expense. Um, this is definitely a little bit hefty withdrawal, but the idea is that I will sustain this portfolio for maybe 15, 20 years, and then hopefully the core holding will kind of grow and then substitute and kind of taking off some load from the living expense portion of it. So some people asking like why TSL is quite risky. It is definitely very risky, and then in such a large amount that we invested into the living expense as well. But I do see a decent future for Tesla. I know that the valuation is quite crazy, but I know that they have a lot in the pipeline. Combining it with the stocks being so volatile, it actually gave a pretty good option premium. So I can kind of see where the distributions are coming from. I know it's a very hot debated topic, and then usually I try to stay away from ETF that pays too much, but Tesla is kind of like a moonshot exception. It's definitely the riskier, the most fragile part of this whole portfolio. Okay, so as you can see here, the cash portion is quite low. We had a lot of unexpected expense and a lot of money shifting around. So the cash is a little bit on the dangerously low side, and then we will try to spend the next year try to build this part back up. Ideal amount, we probably want about 30K in cash, so about 6 to 12 months of living expense, just in case things go south or some crazy expense comes up, we can kind of managing this part a little bit better. Anyways, okay, let's move on to take a look at the test portfolio. So I always get this question where do I have all these, VFV, HYLD, XEQT portfolio? Those are just hypothetical. So basically, they all started at the same amount as my main portfolio, and then I track the same withdrawal as the main portfolio and to see how it would have performed if I were to go with a different strategy. So this is a VFV portfolio. Again, in the beginning, we start tracking about November 2024, and we started out with 6,172 shares. And then every time we withdraw, we just kind of track the withdrawal over here. I know I collapsed them over here. So this is all the withdrawal that we have done in the past. So far, the account is sitting at 1,084,000. It's been steady up as well. Um, so far, we are beating VFV portfolio by quite a decent margin. Again, it's only been 2 years, right? Anything could happen in the long run, so I don't want to celebrate just yet. Everything in the long run, anything could happen. It is no secret that our main portfolio has a much higher beta than the S&P 500. What does mean is that S&P move 1%, our portfolio might move 1.5. So this good for upside and also for downside. So this is remain to be seen. But so far, S&P 500, I would consider this a success. That if I were retired with this two years ago, I would still be up despite all the withdrawal over here that I've done. Okay, let's take a look at HYLD. So for those of you not familiar, HYLD is it's a US diversified leverage 25% and then layer with the cover call. Originally, I expect HYLD to perform the worst just because of despite the margin, they pay quite high, and then with the off cover call kind of capping the upside, I expect VFV to beat out HYLD. But so far, HYLD actually beating VFV more and more every time I check. Again, only been 2 years, so don't draw any conclusion from here. HYLD is sitting at 1.141 million, which is considered quite a success from 2 years ago. Again, HYLD pays so much, and I would feel not right to not slap any tax on it, so I decided to slap about 7% tax on it. Again, this part is very personal. People might have a different tax percentage depending on your living situation. Again, after taxes, HYLD pay quite a large amount. So every month, instead of selling share, I end up having to buy more shares. So you can see the history here. So as you can see, VFE is a negative share. So every time I have to keep selling shares, but HYLD, I actually have to buy more shares every month. So you can see the share count starting at 63,000, and now we at 72,000. So the share gradually increased. Um, One of the critics I heard about people saying about VFV is that over time, don't your shares go to zero, and then your retirement would fail. Um, it's possible. However, by design, the share count is supposed to keep going down. However, the idea is that VFV price will grow more than your withdrawal percent. So eventually, the shares sold gonna slowly decrease over time. in the long run. We're talking about 20, 30 years, right? In the long run, share price is going to decrease over time, and in the end of the year, like in the end of 30 years, you might only sell maybe 2 shares, split adjusted and everything. Okay, so let's take a look at XEQT next. XEQT, this is definitely a darling for a lot of investment sub, just because it's so heavily diversified. So for those of you not familiar, XEQT is globally diversified with a little bit of a heavy anchor in Canadian market because it's a home base, invested in US, emerging market, and everything like that. So it's like an all-in-one, one-stop shop, buy and forget ETF. XQT actually performed quite well, beating VFV, but again, we did have a huge energy boom, and also banking has been doing quite well. XQT, due to being heavy in Canadian market, get the full benefit of that. One thing I had to note is that XQT performed the best during the recent downturn, Liberation Day, and also I wouldn't call it the March crash of this year, more like the March slight dip. It performed the best where it has the lowest volatility and a decent growth. So in terms of risk-adjusted return, I would say that XQT is super solid. Can't complain. XQT is a bit of a pain in the ass for me because dividend they pay out quarterly and then it kind of fluctuates. So I kind of track the dividend over here. And the shares sold and bought are quite fluctuating as well. So we're starting off at 26,000 shares, and now we still end up 500 share lower overall. So again, we're starting off about 900,000, ending up with 1.144 million. Consider a great success as well. No complaint there. Okay. Now let's look at the QQC, which is a Nasdaq Composite Index. And this one is a QQC, is a Canadian listed ticker. I picked this one because it seems to have the lowest fee and a decent track record compared to other one. XQQ I think has a slightly higher fee, but then basically doing the same thing, right? Might as well go with the lowest fee one. This one, this Nasdaq is quite heavy in tech, so I would expect higher growth compared to VFV, and so far it's been killing it. 1.23 million, cash included. Again, QQC they pay dividend quarterly, so this amount kind of fluctuates a little bit. Same thing with VFV, right? The idea is that you're gonna sell less and less share over time to fund your retirement, and in the end, as long as the growth rate outpaces your withdrawal percent, it should be a success theoretically. So QQC definitely one of the second best performing right now. It actually, but again, this one also come with the highest volatility because being so heavy in tech. During the dip, this one definitely dipped harder than the XQT and VFV, due to it being higher beta. Okay. Okay. Our portfolio side. Okay. Let me just breathe a little bit. Let's take a look at the side-by-side data now. So this is side-by-side data. We start tracking the whole portfolio at in November 2024. I decided to put trigger. I think it was like a June of 2024, but then I didn't think to start tracking seriously until November. And as you can see here, the main starting balance is about the same, 932, and the end balance is over here. This is end balance. Um, so I track everything, like the amount of withdrawal per month, cash holding since then. We're starting out quite a bit of cash, and I think we did take out a lot of cash to buy during the Liberation Day dip, and again during this time. So that's why we can see some fluctuation in cash over here. I try to put out as detailed note as possible, but without being too congested in data. So let's take a look at the side-by-side data here. As you can see, this is the Liberation Day dip. This is when Trump comes out and decided to tariff the whole world. Stock market dropped like crazy. XEQT, the yellow line over here, actually dropped the least out of everything. And again, during the March dip over here, XQT is barely affected and then kind of just chugging along. However, during a raging bull market, of course, XQT being overly diversified, you don't get to capture a full tech boom because most of the AI stocks are in tech in US, right? So you kind of miss that part a little bit. But again, in terms of risk-adjusted return, I can't say enough good things about XQT. So far, our main portfolios are beating out QQC, HYLD and everything. Again, I'm not trying to compare apple to apple here, right? I'm just comparing strategy. If I were to go a traditional route of using VFV, XQT, QQC, how my retirement journey would have been. So I get a lot of critique about like, oh, you're not comparing apple to apple, and that's not what I'm trying to do here. Sorry, I think my headphone just randomly died. So I think what I was saying is that I'm not trying to compare apple to apple in terms of ticker to ticker. I'm trying to compare the strategy. Okay, anyways, enough of that, right? But feel free to have a comment if you think that I should add anything, any question, just feel free to throw it in the comment section. I'll try to do my best to answer all of them. And this is the amount total withdrawn since I started tracking. So far, since November of 2024, we have withdrawn $85,000 total. And then again, this is basically same across all the portfolio. So side by side data, the past month, this is I think about 37 days because I didn't do it exactly 30 days, and then I'll reset it after I make the video. Month-over-month change, our portfolio actually went up 160K, which is massive in 30 days period, right? It's crazy. So the bull market just ripped crazy after the war resolution. They assume that the war has a resolution, but right now we all know that it's not over yet. So we'll see how the market will open on Monday. We might see another dip, we don't know, right? So VFV also went up 7%. QQC also went up even more than our main portfolio. Year to date, we are up 10%, including withdrawal 12%, beating out VFV and QQC by quite a decent amount. Again, due to how the data is collected, this is not exactly 100% correct. It should be slightly higher for the VFV and QQC because the share count is a little bit reduced after all the withdrawal. So I would add maybe a little bit of like up maybe percent extra for these one just to kind of keep it even. So in 2025, we did quite well in terms of return, and 2026 is shaping out to be a good year. I think we do have a lot of volatility ahead of us. I think the Iran war is not over yet, and as the oil price is really high, it put a lot of looming fear of rate hikes, which I don't think is going to happen, but I don't assuming the rate decrease is going to happen either. Of course, with rate being lower, it's better for businesses, more lending, more business growth. But we'll see what happens. I just don't think that, honestly, I don't think the Fed should lower rate because when issue happen, the Fed only have one lever solution to pull, which is lower rates. And then if the rate's already low, then there's nothing they can do. I'm okay with rate being as it is now, or maybe a little bit lower, but I don't agree that the rate should keep lowering every time when things are good. Okay, so 2026 goal, I know that I haven't really go over this too much. eBay listing, I've been so lazy with this. I do have a lot of stuff that I accumulated over the years of work, like all the suits, all the stuff that I want to try to slowly sell them off, try to get some cash in, whatever. Emergency fund, we at the critical danger low, 18% to go. I gonna have to kind of put on the bootstrap and try to get this one back up to a more safer amount. Our living situations are quite secure, so I'm not too worried about the cash, but I'd rather have the emergency fund just in case something happened, right? It might not be for me, like if something happened to the family, something happened to the car. I want to make sure that I don't have to shuffling around looking for cash and just have this ready. Duolingo, we've been doing good. I think this is kind of integrated into the daily habit already, so I'm not too worried. Reading book, again, being super lazy. I should really pick that up a little bit more. I just find myself, really lazy lately. Weather's getting nice. We go out for a walk a lot. Okay, and next is for life stuff. I know for those of you who follow my series, you know that we're experiencing a lot of health issue in the family, and again, mom's still in and out hospital every other day just to get the blood test because she had a bone marrow cancer, so she had to get a bone marrow transplant, and then they have to monitor her blood very closely to make sure that everything's good. Hopefully, we should have a better idea of how things are going to be in next year. Hopefully, things are good. She basically, again, I say this every time. She worked hard her whole life, just to. She was supposed to retire this year, and just before she retired, she got diagnosed with cancer. Again, I bang this drum every time that you can't just work, work, work and hope that one day you retire and enjoy your life. You got to enjoy life along the way because you don't know what's going to happen. And I'm not advocating for go and blow everything right away, but you got to find the right balance that works for yourself. Yeah, so I guess that's it for this video. Thank you for watching for the update. I don't know if you actually watched to the end. Thank you so much. If not, if you have any suggestion, ideas, please let me know. Actually, another thing is that I didn't mention is I know most people probably want to stay to this point, but one thing about being early retired is that and I wasn't really planning for this to happen in the beginning. So how do I say this? I do find myself sometimes a little bit lost. I look for a lot of time we tie our life purpose with um with work. And then now that I don't have work, I sometimes find myself being unproductive, and I do wanted to find that sense of purpose again. Not about finding work, but I want to find something that I can kind of pour my heart and soul into it and feel more productive. I'm still in the progress of figuring it out for myself. Um, but that's kind of part of, life, right? You can have everything planned, or you can think you have everything planned, but there's always going to be a curveball somewhere, and it's up to you to adapt and try to navigate through the curveball. And then if you watch the end, again, thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful May and June, and I'll see you in next month. See ya.